Why do I? The short answer is that I like to get high, and the long answer is much more encompassing, so we can get into that one as well. All right, well, to give you guys some backstory, I am currently 25 years old, and I've been smoking weed since I was 13. So just about 12 years on my roster, which is quite a long time, especially for someone of my age. It's just about half my life, which is pretty insane to think about. And I'm saying that very neutrally. In no way do I think that's a good thing. Hopefully I don't really have to specify that, but yeah, you shouldn't be smoking weed if you're 13 years old. Definitely try to get some brain development under your belt. But my life has brought me here, and I wouldn't really have it any other way, so can't really change anything, and I don't waste my time thinking about how I could, because I'd probably drive myself a little crazy doing so. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Frances. If you've been around the block on my channel, then you probably know me to some varying degree and think of me as a massive stoner on the internet. I mean, I like to think that I have many different facets to myself and my channel, but you know, from a quick glance, that is what I'm portraying, so. And that is what I am. I guess I don't really know what I'm justifying here. But I've realized that I don't know that there's a single video on my channel at this current time, probably there was back in the day, but at this point there is not, that explains why I smoke weed. Just the simple question of why. Why have I made so much of my life about this? Why is my channel about getting high? And these are good questions. So let's dive into this together. Maybe pour yourself a cup of tea, but honestly, there isn't one good answer to this question. I have been making stoner content since I was about like 15 years old, and that has been the majority of the time that I've even been smoking. Back when I was a reckless teenager and my head just was not on my studies, I ended up dropping out of school. And I had to wait a little bit until I could go back because I couldn't enroll mid-semester. So I ended up being like, okay, I'm gonna be out of school probably for the next couple of months. I wanna say this actually extended into summer. I think I left during the final quarter. I know it was around my birthday, like my 16th birthday, a little bit before then. So I ended up just being out of school and home alone a lot for a couple of months. And that was when I started my original channel, Marijuana Mermaid, and I ended up smoking weed online. That was what I saw on YouTube. I thought it was so cool. Not only did I think it was sick, and I also love like the communal aspect of weed, and I was already smoking a lot on my own, and I was like, you know what, I think that I can pretend that I'm like 18. I think that I can just like neither confirm nor deny my age, and I can do what these older kids are doing. Honestly, crazy work, crazy behavior that was going on, but that was when I made my first stoner channel. But obviously at this point I was already smoking, so that was not initially what made me smoke. A lot of my initial knowledge on cannabis came from YouTube, but I wouldn't say that was what made me initially start smoking. I honestly started smoking because I was in Portland, Oregon. There were a ton of stoners around me. It's a very like hippie city, and honestly I was just curious. There wasn't any like real reason. I just never really demonized it. I never really thought like smoking weed was a big deal, I guess. I was like a little too casual about how I thought about it. I remember other kids would be like, oh my god, it's so bad, like I don't want to smoke weed, like what are you doing? And I was like, girl, it's fine. Let's do this shit. Like, let's blow it out the window right now, in fact. Like, I'm making a sploof out of dryer sheets. Like, I was like making paraphernalia myself. I was like, what is this shit about? Like, this sounds fun. And honestly, it was kind of always a love affair. And obviously, I was way too young to be smoking, but I always just had so much fun. I was never anxious when I first started smoking. I mean, I guess I could get paranoid, you know, if I was worried about getting caught or something, but I never really like got in my head like that. Like, I genuinely had a good time, and it made me feel like I was less overstimulated, and there were a lot of things I didn't know about myself, and that I was neurodivergent. Like, I couldn't put things into words yet. I just knew that I really liked how it felt. I really liked being high, and I was like, this is the best thing that I've ever encountered. It was honestly like very kind of like addictive, like as far as that spectrum goes. Honestly, some of you guys are gonna be like, damn, you're like a weed addict. Yes. I don't think I am at this point in my life. At the time, like as far as addiction goes with that shit, I was obsessed. I was like, I wanna learn everything about it, and I wanna own all these different pieces. I got really into stoner culture, which was very different at that time and a lot more simple. But yeah, I wish I could tell you why I got that heavily into it. I mean, honestly, like, I was going through stuff, but it wasn't even really necessarily an escape. I just genuinely really liked how it felt, and I think that's how it is for like certain people. So I just put Aquaphor on my lips, by the way, in case it's always going everywhere. I think sometimes people overcomplicate relationships with weed, because yes, sometimes people are doing it because they're running away from something or whatever it is, but like, I think at the time, really just what it was that I was young. young. I was sensory seeking, and I just was like, this is fun as hell. Obviously, there are dangerous components to that because I didn't yet have the impulse control. That part of my brain hadn't developed, so it wasn't good, obviously, for me to be stoned all day, every day at that age. Same with like when I would drink or do different things at that age. I was just like, guys, like, we're teenagers. Like, I remember how I would think of it. I'd be like, do y'all realize that we are currently teenagers? Like, we need to be hot, young, and turn. And that was my vibe. And like, this is not me glorifying that. Like, I was a menace to society. So I started my weed channel, and then by the time I'm 18, 19, I got to quit my job that I had. Didn't end up going to college because I was like, okay, well, I already have this job that's paying me. And so I think my relationship to weed has been very odd and unique, I guess. I didn't go to college, ended up fully pursuing YouTube. This is my second YouTube channel. A lot of you guys know the story, some of you don't. I also had various pretty big Instagram accounts and came to LA, started working with tons of companies. And I think because I genuinely went into adulthood in the weed industry, which is like, it's a crazy concept, really. I mean, lots of people are stoners growing up or may have close connections. You know, maybe your parents are stoners or they grow, or there's lots of people that have connections to the weed industry, but I just like basically came of age in this industry, which was really interesting. And so it never even seemed viable for me to stop smoking. I don't know if I would have stopped at any point, but because it was my job, I was like, I am not gonna stop smoking. Like, this is the greatest job ever. I wanna milk this until the last second. And then I ended up getting hit by a car also when I was about 17 years old. And I've had long-lasting pain from my injuries, especially with my knees and my neck. My neck just the other day was completely tensed up in my shoulders and I couldn't even move it. And so now that I have this chronic pain, I use edibles and I use like CBD patches and things like that. So it's become a more complex relationship. I think where weed used to be something I used just because it was fun, and I always wanted to be high when I was younger. And then I got older, and as my brain matured and I got more in touch with my hobbies and I was able to afford the lifestyle, I guess, that being a stoner ultimately brought to me, I re-examined my relationship with smoking. I would say around like probably like 22 was when I really cut down. I switched to edibles a lot of the time. Something in me changed. I am more focused on being present with the world a lot more. Not to say that smoking makes me not present, because honestly, it actually a lot of the time makes me feel extremely present. Like, I'll go from being extremely overwhelmed, and I think maybe this is unique also because I'm on the spectrum, but I will be so overwhelmed and not in reality, and then I'll smoke and I'll come back and be like, whoa, kitties! And cannabis actually is linked to autism and having like positive effects for people that are autistic in a way that it may not for neurotypical thinkers. So it really just depends. I just truly have to listen to my body at this point and notice, like, am I having a good day? Am I feeling great? Do I not need to smoke or have any kind of cannabis in my system? Like, I think that ultimately that would inhibit me right now, or I'll be like, no, I'm having a shit day. I'm not having a good time coping with this on my own. I think now would be a good time to use it as medicine. And then there's just some nights where I'm like, this isn't medicine at all. I'm just smoking because I want to giggle and have fun. So there's really not one answer about why I smoke at this point. It's just a mixture of reasons. For a bit I was like, am I just smoking this much and not prompting myself to quit because I've made it my identity so much? Like, is this really who I am? And that's why there's been times that I've really disconnected from YouTube or posted less or made my content not so centrally about smoking. That was very healing for me. Like, for a while when I was up in the mountains, I would smoke in my videos, but like, I don't really feel like that was the purpose of them. A lot of the time it was really just me getting out in nature and taking care of myself, and I would just like throw in a couple hits, you know, because I felt like that would keep my audience there. Now I'm back to actually really enjoying creating. I don't know, sometimes people are really pressed and concerned in my comments, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think I'm the person to be that taken seriously, you know? Like, I'm here for entertainment. I'm kind of here to just be like a virtual buddy. Like, I'm not really someone that you should base your life off of or invest in that heavily. People raise the question of dependence, and that's fair. But I think at the end of the day, it's kind of just like everyone's personal journey with how much they smoke, and I'm not making it anyone else's problem. So I think it's crazy when people like interrupt plans or have to stop everybody so that they can go smoke unless it's like a medical reason. That I'm just like, okay, like it's never that serious, at least for me. But if I'm just like chilling around my house, yeah, I'm gonna smoke. If you don't want to see me lit, why are you on a stoner YouTube channel? But for the people that are genuinely just curious or concerned, I promise it's all good. Don't you worry. We've made it this far, and you know, maybe I'll have a totally different stance at 35, but right now, feeling good. I also don't sleep very well, so every once in a while it is just necessary for me to knock out on a bunch of edibles and actually get a good night's rest. But yeah, hopefully that gave you guys a little more insight. Talking with my hands a lot all of a sudden. I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!